Okay, normally we get in the truck, we're gonna do a pre-trip air brake inspection on this truck. The best thing to do is, first thing you want to do is put your seatbelt on. You want to start the truck up. Start the truck up. Make sure that your primary and secondary air gauges are over 100 psi. Once you know you're above that, you can push the clutch in, put the truck in first gear. You want to shut the truck off, and you want to turn the power back on so you get power to all your gauges. Once you do that, you want to stabilize the air pressure by pushing in your air valves, tractor and trailer. When they quit hissing, that's stabilized. Both feet on the floor, you are not allowed to lose more than 3 psi on your primary or secondary gauge. Now, I'm gonna put my foot on the brake, and I'm not allowed to lose 4 psi in 1 minute. It's simultaneous. 3 psi with your feet on the floor, 4 psi with your foot on the brake. We are not losing any air pressure. You are going to fan the brakes down to 60 psi, and all the warning buzzards and lights should come on. There's your warning buzzard, and you'll see the lights lighting up on your dash indicating you have low air pressure. If this happens to you, pull off the road immediately, because when you get down to 20 to 40 psi, the spring brakes are gonna lock and you're gonna be stuck wherever the truck is sitting. So continue to fan it down to your 20 to 45 psi. At that point, both of your spring brakes are going to pop out. There's one, and make sure you keep pumping till they both pop. Okay, now they both pop. We're completely out of air. The truck cannot be moved. The only way to move this truck now is to push the clutch in, put the truck in neutral, start the truck up. As soon as you start the truck, you want to tell him that your oil pressure gauge come up to normal within 4 seconds. Step on the throttle and rev the engine up to 1400 RPM, which is operating RPM for the truck. And you will hold it there until your primary and secondary air pressure comes up to 60 psi, when the warning buzzards and lights will go off. And you just sit here with them and you wait. Still holding it at the 1400 RPMs, and we're still building our pressure. There's the first one. There's the second one. All the warning buzzards are off. Now we're going to build the 85 psi, which, if you got a gauge that don't have any numbers, it's the one right between 100 and 60. When you're at 85 pounds, you tell the instructor I'm at 85 psi and I'm going to 100 psi in 45 seconds or less. Okay, I'm now at 100 psi, and I will continue to build my air pressure to 120 to 125 for the air governor to kick out. And you're just waiting to listen for the air to blow off. You will hear it. And you're still holding it at your 1400 RPMs. And build their pressure to 120 to 125 on both your primary and secondary gauges, where we're almost to now. Still holding it at 1400, and there your air pressure just kicked off. That's the end of the air brake test. Now they would like you to do a tug test, which is very simple. Push the clutch in, put the truck in first gear, release the tractor brake, leave the trailer brake on, pull against it, it don't move, Pull the tractor on, release the trailer, let the clutch off slowly, pull against it. It's not moving. The end of your air brake test, put the truck back in neutral. Okay, we're gonna move on to the in-cab inspection. We wanna check all the gauges, make sure this truck will start. We're gonna start up the truck. You're going to tell him all of the gauges that are in the truck. So you have an oil pressure gauge. You're gonna tell him your voltmeter, the water pressure temperature, your RPM, your fuel gauge, your speedometer, your brake application gauge, which is what tells you how much force and air you're putting to the brakes. This is your primary air gauge and your secondary air gauge. He wants to have your air horn work, city horn has to work. These are your turn high beams and low beams, turn signal right and left, and the four-way flashers are underneath the turn signals. To shut them off, you have to turn the turn signal on. You will test your headlights, your marker lights. You want to do your air conditioning heater working here. Tell them your vents. This is your hot and cold button. These are your brakes. You will turn on your wipers and you will check your dimmer lights. This is the clutch pedal. This is the brake pedal. This is the throttle pedal. And this is your gear shift. And your air gauges. That should be all you have to tell them on the in-cab inspection. Also make sure your window's clean. There's no debris hanging down in front of your face. And the windows work, go up and down. That should be the end of the in-cab inspection.